So again, thank you for coming and participating in this Bhakti Yoga process. Tonight I thought I would talk a little bit about the Guru. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the postgraduate study of the Bhagavad Gita, it's described there's a person who had 24 gurus. Generally was supposed to have one. But he learns from nature, a wise man. So I'll just say a couple of them. He learned from the tree to give. It's like here in our patio we have a nice fig tree. And I had some of those nice ripe figs about a month ago, and they were so sweet. It was just like candy. So good. So trees give fruits. We also have a pomegranate tree here. So trees give fruits. They give shade. They give oxygen. So they give a lot. So this saintly person, he learned from the tree that we should give. Yeah. Just like most men in the world, they like to be handsome. So the more we're giving out, we're giving to others. Handsome. Give what we have. Give handsome. Give out some. Give to others of what we have. We become more attractive by giving. The tree also has roots. It has a trunk, it has the tree itself. Now if the roots aren't healthy, then it's difficult for the tree to be healthy itself. I'll tell you an interesting thing I heard recently. There's one devotee in Mumbai, India, and he's a famous devotee, wonderful devotee, saintly person. So one person who's a congregational member, he had recently gotten a Lamborghini, brand new Lamborghini in Bombay. So he wanted this saintly devotee to bless his car by driving around with him in this car. So they were driving around Mumbai with this brand new Lamborghini, and they stopped at a stoplight, and the car stopped next to him. The person looked over and looked at that Lamborghini, and it's like, oh. And then you saw that this person in the passenger seat, he was wearing saffron. This means renounced. And the person said, "Whoa, look at this brahmachari walking around, going around in a Lamborghini." And he motioned to no, it's not mine. It's his. It's not. So, wealthy man to have such a nice car. But then after the drive, this man, he was in tears. And this devotee asked him, why are you crying? He said, my wife has filed for divorce. She's a nice lady, good mother, but I'm suffering so much. So people were envying him so much because he had this nice brand new car, but he's suffering so much. The roots. He's suffering. The roots are not healthy. So spiritual life means making the roots healthy. If the roots are healthy, if we're healthy inside, then the trunk can be strong and the whole tree can be strong. He also learned from this body itself, this saintly person. Because the body, generally the body has a tendency to get disease. Generally I'm a pretty healthy person. I haven't been sick in like 30 years. But last week I got so sick I couldn't believe it. It's like, this isn't supposed to happen. But I got pretty sick. Got over it. But that's the nature of this body. It gets sick. It gets old. Nobody likes to get old. Right? People are trying to avoid old age. Just like when I was a young brahmachari, a young monk, I had this sika where it's supposed to be. It was up here. But as I got older, it slid down. Now it's down here. I call it the senior citizen sika. And it's falling out. Of course, as a monk, it's not a problem, just means we shave off less. So, not an issue. Yeah, people don't want to get old, don't want to get disease, don't want to die. So, we learn from this body that it's temporary. But we're not temporary. We're eternal souls. It's described in the Bhagavad Gita, Nainam Chintanti Sistrani, Nainam Dehati Pavaka, that the soul is so powerful that it can't be destroyed by any weapon. Even the most powerful nitrogen bomb can't kill the soul. It can't be burned by fire. Practically everything can be burned by fire, but not the soul. Can't be withered by the wind. You can't drown the soul. So the soul is very powerful. But unfortunately, people have forgotten how powerful the soul is, and they think that they're the body. So this is the grand illusion throughout the world, is people are thinking that they're man or woman or Chinese or Russian or American. This is illusion. And we can also learn from some of our philosophers. It's like Socrates. He was teaching his students the eternality of the soul. He was such a wise man. Just by his intellect he understood. He didn't hear from any Vedic literatures. He didn't hear from any guru. Just by his intellect he realized, I'm the soul. Amazing personality. So much so that he had such a realization that the leaders there, they said, listen, if you don't stop teaching this, we're going to kill you. And pretty much he replied, well, you can't kill me. I'm eternal. He said, oh yeah? Well, we'll see about that. So they gave him this poison. And he took it. He could have left. His disciples said, you could leave. You could leave Athens. You don't have to stay here and deal with these politicians. He said, no, that's all right. So he took this poison. But before he died, he was asked, do you want to be burned, or you want to be buried, or what do you want? Anybody know what he said? He said, you'll have to catch me. Because he knew, I'm going somewhere else. I'm not going to die. You can kill the body, but you can't kill me. And Plato, his disciple also, he was quite thoughtful. He had this analogy of the cave analogy. There's 3 people in this cave. And there's a fire behind them. And they're all facing the wall. And all they had ever seen is this shadow coming from the fire body. But one of them thought, well, maybe there's something else outside. So he was a little gutsy, had some guts. So he went outside, and he saw there's trees and there's rivers and sky, so much beauty, and he was amazed. So then he went back in the cave and he said, hey, my friends, there's a whole other world out there. We're used to this, but there's a whole other world out there. We don't have to stay here and just experience these shades on the wall. And what was their reply? Nonsense. You must have joined some cult or something. Yeah. What are you talking about? There's nothing. This is it. This is reality. This is reality. So somewhere in this world, people are thinking that this is all there is. This world where there's death and old age and disease. But no, there's a whole other world. There's a spiritual world where there's no death. There's no old age. There's no disease. No anxiety. It's called Vaikuntha. This world is called Kuntha. So much anxiety. Now with this COVID-19, the anxiety level has increased. But there's a place where there's no anxiety at all. Spiritual world. And actually that's our real home. This is not our real home. We're all ETs. Come from another planet. So this is the reality. And the goal of the human form of life is to become pure again and go back to the spiritual world. So another thing that we could learn in this world, and this isn't mentioned by the saintly person, he had many gurus, but we learned from our mistakes, isn't it? We all make mistakes, right? And we learn from our mistakes. Our mistakes are gurus. It's like I remember I was driving one time in LA and I was in a hurry to go somewhere. It wasn't an emergency or anything. So I got in the lane where you're only allowed, where you're supposed to have two, but I was by myself, so I thought, let me just go, it'll be all right. Got a ticket. I learned from that mistake. So we learn from our mistakes. Mistakes are gurus, so we should learn from them, right? There's the school of hard knocks, right? We learn from these hard knocks. They come occasionally, and we learn from them. But the goal of the human form of life is to accept a spiritual master, a guru who guides us in our spiritual life. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it stated the symptoms or the qualifications of a guru. Didikshva karunika surda sarva dehina majatta sattvata santa sadhava sadhabhusha. The first qualification of a guru is tolerant. Very tolerant. It's important. To advance in spiritual life, we have to be tolerant. As one of our teachers, one of our gurus, he said, this material world is a weird abode. It's a strange place. And we have to be tolerant. If we want to advance in spiritual life, we have to be tolerant. Tolerate so many things. We have to tolerate the reversals of this body. You have to tolerate sometimes the weather. Just like I meet a lot of people from Arizona. It's hot over there. So they come to Southern California to get away from the heat. It's hard to tolerate. Sometimes it's 115 degrees. We can't imagine that, right? Anybody here from Arizona? Yeah, we got a few right here. Yeah, it gets hot over there. But sometimes you have to tolerate. Sometimes it gets cold, to tolerate the cold. Sometimes we have to tolerate our own mind. The mind will say so many things which are not right. So we have to tolerate it and do the right thing. Karunaka means compassion. A guru is compassionate. Just like our Srila Prabhupada. He is the founder acharya of our society. He's very compassionate. And this temple is here because of the compassion of this guru. He was 69 years old when he left India on the order of his guru to spread Krishna consciousness. And for 1 year, no results, nothing. No one listened to him for 1 year. But he was tolerant. He tolerated the no's. He tolerated the rejection and continued on with his compassion. Because he had this compassion, he continued on and continued on. And eventually, people started listening to him. And by the time he left this world, there was 108 temples on this planet, and thousands of devotees all over the world. In Europe, in America, in China, in Japan, Australia, everywhere. Because of the compassion of one great saintly personality. Surya Sarvadehinam is a friend to all living entities. I'll tell you a nice pastime of this great personality, just to show his greatness. He had one disciple who was the son of a very wealthy man. And he was asked to go to India. This disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he was asked to go to India because Prabhupada was starting the activities there in India as well. So this son of a wealthy man was happy to go to India, but his parents weren't happy. So the parents decided to go to India to try to convince him to go back to America. His name was, at that time, was Giriraj Das. So this Giriraj Das, he picked his parents up at the airport, and immediately his father's trying to convince him to go back to America. Why are you in India? Come on, this is a third world country. Come on, let's go back to America. You know, what are you doing here? No, I want to stay here. I like it here. Adventurous. Yeah. So then he thought, well, this is not going to work. So he asked him, I want to speak to your guru. He said, all right. So he arranged to meet with his spiritual master, his parents, and the servant was there. So they all met. And the father said, you know, this disciple of yours, he's our only son, and we're very attached to him. We love him very much, and now he's in India. It's very far away. Please, can you ask him to go back to America? So Prabhupada asked Giriraj, would you like to go back to America? And he said, no, Prabhupada, I want to stay here with you. So Prabhupada said to his parents, what can I do? You don't want me to force him, right? Because there's a saying, a person forced against his will is of the same opinion still. So he would run away again anyway. So it was understood he's going to stay in India. So then Prabhupada said, well, listen, Giriraj, why don't you go with your parents to the foothills of... actually, he went to Nepal, right? He went to Nepal. Why don't you take your parents to Nepal? Nice. There's nice resorts there, and you could spend some time with them. He said, all right, yeah, let's do that. So they went to Nepal in the Himalayas. And they were very happy that they had some time with their son, about a week or so. Then they came back, and Giriraj wanted them to spend some more time with Prabhupada, because Prabhupada is such a saintly person. Just to be in his association is very auspicious. So they spent about an hour together. And Prabhupada didn't preach the philosophy. He was just friendly to them. Just joking, differences between America and India. And, Prabhupada had a very incredible sense of humor, too. He used to get devotees laughing all the time. Another symptom of some sadhus, some saintly people. It was very funny. So when they left, they were very happy. So after they left, the servant said to Prabhupada, "Prabhupada, you amaze me. Everybody loves you so much." And Prabhupada said to him, "That's because I love everyone so much." So this is a saintly person. He loves people. He wants to help people in their journey, of spiritual life. So Titikshava Krunika Surda Sarvada Ajata Sattvata Santa. Ajata Santvata means that he has no enemies. Somebody may be an enemy towards him, but he's not an enemy towards anyone else. Kind to everyone. No envy. Sadhava Sadhubhushanam. His characteristics are sublime. Sublime characteristics. So this is a saintly person whom we could learn from. Srila Prabhupada, he left us so many treasures in the form of books. Like we have the Bhagavad Gita, we have the Srimad Bhagavatam. How many of you do not have the Bhagavad Gita? Please raise your hand. One. Anybody? Excuse me. Because we have one for you, right? In the store, right? Just go out to the left. We have a lot of... Actually, we have other books also. If anybody's interested in getting other books, we have lots of books. And one nice thing about these books, they don't get old. Timeless wisdom. You could read, I've had experience. I've read the Bhagavad Gita about 30 times. They don't get old. Timeless wisdom. So that's a nice thing about these books. You can read it over and over and over again. And you get more and more out of it each time you read it. So, on that note, maybe there's any questions or comments? The first one is always the most difficult. People are shy. Okay. We have someone who's not shy.
So you mentioned you're talking about these different qualities. One was tolerance, and you mentioned about Arizona, how it's so hot there. And yeah, how we have to tolerate, this and that and so many different things in this world. Now, what would we say to someone who just says, okay, well, yeah, that's true, there's a lot of stuff to tolerate, but by my intelligence, by my by scientific advancement, by different things, I don't have to tolerate, I could just, there's problems that come up that bother me, and I just solve them. And anyway, so maybe you could comment on that. And I'm not...
It's not a challenge.
Yeah, just people think something.
I want to hear the answer to such a question. Okay, that's good. Yeah, with modern technology, in Arizona you could have a nice air-conditioned house and just, do your work online and not have to deal with the heat at all. I'm sure there's people there that do that. Quite a few. So yeah, there are ways to avoid the disturbances of the material world. But with all the advancement in science, they haven't stopped disease. It still comes. They haven't stopped old age. Although there is someone told me that there's a group of scientists that are trying to stop old age. Meanwhile, they're all dying. They're getting old and they're dying. So yeah, you can't stop old age. You can't stop disease. Some things you can get away with. You can get around some difficulties in this world. But mostly, it's the material world. There's so many reversals. We're very vulnerable in this world. It's like I have one friend. He's a doctor, and he deals only with cancer. So I asked him, so how many types of cancer are there? He said, we don't know. There's just so many different types of cancer. We don't know how many there are. It's just so many. You can get cancer in any type of your body, any part of your body. I had this disease called eosinophilic esophagitis. Yeah, true, yeah. Of course, I'm dealing with it with diet. You're able to... No. This is esophagus. The problem is the grains, because the way that they're growing the grains now, they're not natural, so it caused some problem. So I'm trying to stay away from grains. So that genetically modified, they're ruining so many. Krishna's given us so many nice foods. They're so healthy, so nice, and we ruined it. Why? Money, right? Got to make more money. We ruin the food. Terrible. Yes. Okay, we have a microphone coming, so
Yeah, I was just going to pass. Yeah, I just want to make a little comment before we move on to her that this person you mentioned about the Lamborghini, I mean, by his money, by his intelligence, however he got that money, he is able to mitigate so many different problems in his life, right? With the air conditioner, whatever it is.
yeah.
So maybe more so than others, but like you mentioned, there's some things you just can't get around. Like still, he's unhappy, right, because of that situation in his life. And so, anyways, that's the
Good point. Good point.
thing about
he was suffering so much. Here he had so much money. He must have been a millionaire.
Yeah.
But he's suffering so much because his wife's leaving him. Nothing he can do about that. No, but please stay. No, I'm leaving.
Yeah,
nothing you can do.
And that type of tolerance and ability to be happy despite all situations, that's from spiritual life. But
yeah,
anyway.
if one is strong spiritually, even in a situation like that, one can be strong. Even in a situation, he could accept that as the mercy of Krishna and go on, grow in his spiritual life.
Okay, sorry, just to add on to his question, do you think the essence of the tolerance is not necessarily tolerating something, but maybe accepting that it's there, and then you can always find solutions and ways to make things not bother you as much, I guess, but is it the sense of tolerating it as in accepting that this is here and kind of going through it and then a cycle kind of thing?
That's
instead
tolerance.
Oh.
That's also
Sorry.
tolerance. It's just,
that's just what came to my mind when he asked this question.
Thank you. No, that's very good. Yeah. It's there. I got to deal with it. I got to tolerate it. So, yeah, thank you. Eric, you had a question. Yes.
I just wanted to say that in one of these little books, I wrote down on my board, and it was a quote. It was from one of the books from here, and it just said, be as flexible as a blade of grass and as tolerant as a tree. And I just remember that because, it's exactly like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that quote.
Humble like a blade of grass.
Yeah, humble like a blade of grass.
The grass is so, just people walking on it all the time. And the tree, people are carving their initials on the tree, and it's hot out there. They can, or it's cold. They don't get jackets. So it gets cold out there, so it gets difficult. But it's interesting. I asked one of our devotees, one of our saintly devotees, this question about the tree. I said, I can't really grasp this analogy because it doesn't really sit right with me. More tolerant than a tree. But if the tree could talk, then it might protest, you know. If someone's carving their initial, hey, don't carve your initial in me. How would you like me to carve my initial in you, buddy? Get away, get away from me. But he can't speak. So this saintly person gave a very good answer. He said, therefore, a devotee, a saintly person, is more tolerant than a tree because he can protest, but he doesn't. He tolerates. We can protest. Better to not protest, to grow, tolerate it, and grow spiritually. A lot of times people protest, you know, why is this happening? Why is God doing this to me? I don't deserve this. Or why did he do that to me? You know, karma. We all know about karma. There's no accidents. Whatever comes to us, it's not an accident. We deserved it somehow or another. So just tolerate. And carry on, grow in your spiritual life. Now sometimes people think, well, if you're too tolerant, then people just kind of like take advantage and walk over you. But actually, if someone is sincere and trying to grow spiritually, then eventually, even people that are trying to take advantage, eventually they also kind of back off. You know. If that sincerity is there and that tolerance is there, eventually one understands the sincerity of the person. Yes, we have a hand back there. Microphone is coming right to you in 5 seconds. 1, 2.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
thank
Krishna.
you for the talk. Can the guru make mistakes? Can they misguide us?
Oh. Can the guru make mistakes? Well, someone asked Srila Prabhupada that. Srila Prabhupada, he's the most exalted guru in our society. And he was asked that by one of his disciples. Can the guru make mistakes? And Prabhupada said that the guru, he knows what Krishna wants him to know. He's not omniscient. He's not Krishna. So in that sense, he doesn't make mistakes. That he's Krishna conscious. And, but yeah, if Prabhupada's books, when he came to America, English is not his first language, so all of his books had to be edited. So there was mistakes, a lot of mistakes that had to be corrected. So, but that doesn't mean he's not pure. He's still pure. Because he's acting for Krishna. Materialistic people, they act for their sense gratification. They act to please their senses. But a sincere devotee, he tolerates. Just like there's a very nice verse, one of my favorite verses in the Bhagavad Gita. Apoyamanam machalapatishtam samundama pavasanti. One who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but which is always steady, alone achieves peace, and not the person who strives to satisfy such desires. So many desires will enter us, material desires. So let the material desires go. Spiritual desires, you keep those. Material desires, let them go. Yeah. It's an amazing example that's given in this verse by Krishna. It's like there's so many rivers on this planet, big rivers. Who knows the biggest river in the world? No. Huh? Amazon. Amazon. The Amazon is so big in some places where you're standing on one side of the river, you can't see the other side because they've got the rainforest there. Just so much rain. So much water is going into the ocean from the Amazon. Nile is another big one. And here in America we have the What do we have in America? The Mississippi. Yeah. Do we still have the Colorado River? Is there still water going down there? Huh? Oh, so there's some big rivers, and there's so much water going into to these oceans. Now you would think, well, why isn't it, why isn't San Diego getting over flooded? No, the sun is evaporating so much water at every moment, right? So a devotee is full. So many desires will come, he lets them go, except for the spiritual desires. And this way he grows spiritually. Nice verse, huh? Okay, maybe one more. Is there any more questions? Okay, thank you very much. Now we're going to have the cherry on top of the cake. Prasadam. Hare Krishna. Thank you.